I'm recording this on Thursday, and at this point we don't know who the president is. So I don't know what it's going to be like when you are watching this. But on Facebook today, I saw some of the most hateful posts I've probably seen in the last 4 years. You know, this idea that just a little bit more than half or just a little bit under half of our country are just absolutely terrible, horrible human beings. And that kind of outrage, it's missing the whole point. It's missing the deep picture of what's going on here. So I don't want to talk about the candidates. I don't even want to talk about politics, but I do want to talk about us, we the people. Since so many people did come out to vote, which was awesome, that means the results we're seeing give us actually a pretty big picture of America, and it shows that a little bit more than half, or a little bit less than half, of your fellow Americans are on the other side. And so we can be tempted to think, how could anybody in their right mind vote that way? They must be hateful, or stupid, or a dupe. So there are two possibilities for that question. So if you find yourself really wondering, how in the world could half our country vote the other way than me? It seems to me there's only two possibilities. The first one is what I just said, and that is exactly what the far left thinks of conservatives. They must be hateful, or stupid, or dupes, or all three. And it's exactly what the far right thinks of progressives. They think progressives must all be hateful, stupid, and complete dupes. Well, if really 50% of your fellow Americans, 50% of your neighbors really are that, it's all over. And America is over. Because America was designed around the idea of a country full of individuals, not clones. So if 50% of the nation are clones, it's all over and you can just forget it all. Might as well start looking for another country. Well, that's one possibility, but there's actually another possibility to explain this. But we don't like to go to that one because it's uncomfortable. It actually makes us feel bad, and who wants to feel bad? It's one that requires us to actually swallow our pride. And who wants to do that? So, here's my big suggestion for number 2. A little more than half, or a little less than half, of your fellow Americans who are actually very kind and caring and informed and empathic and hardworking and patriotic think you are dead wrong. Dead wrong on the policies, dead wrong on the politicians to get us. Not like they might not think their politician is great, or they might think they're great, but for me, it's always been choosing the lesser of two evils, and they just think you're dead wrong. They think you're really missing the big boat. That's the other possibility. And we don't like that possibility, because that means we might have to learn something. It means that we actually don't see all that's going on. So which is it for you? All right, here's how I understand it. Remember your Easter box? This is actually going to come in handy. So if you still have one of these, go and get it. Now, what I'm about to say is going to sound, I guess, blatantly obvious to those of you who are smarty pants. But I'm a simple man. And this one thought actually helped me this week when I felt like pulling my hair out. Ready? This is not about sides. It's about a cube. It is not about the good guys and the bad guys and a line in the sand that divides them. It's about looking at a cube from different sides. So, how many sides are there on a cube? That's right, 6. If you have a cube, right now, I can't see the side that you can see. In fact, from where I'm looking, It doesn't even exist. How many sides can you actually see at one time when you're looking at a cube? If you try this, I think you'll find it. You can only see 3. Right now, I can only see 3 sides. What if there were 6 major issues or concerns for Americans, and each one was on a side? Listen to these 6 issues that Americans care about and see which ones of these you agree with. Number 1, the rule of law must be upheld. We need law and order. The Constitution must be upheld and honored even if it gives you the results you don't like. We should be a nation of principles. Number 2, there is still racism and other kinds of prejudice in this country, and things have to change. And sometimes you have to get loud and to fight to make people uncomfortable in order to get things to change. Number 3, we want the smallest government possible because the bigger it is, the more power it has, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Number 4, we should all pitch in through our taxes and have a big enough government so that the most vulnerable and the most needy have the most basic life necessities, and they have an opportunity, a real opportunity to succeed. We should be a nation of mercy and compassion. Number 5, we should maximize freedom and reduce regulations so those who are willing to work hard and come up with brilliant solutions are rewarded more than those who don't. Freedom of speech and all the other bills of rights are what is most important. We need equality of opportunity, not equality of outcomes, because we'll never have equality of outcomes because we're all different. Number 6, we need governmental oversight and policies and regulations on large corporations and wealthy individuals to protect the smaller and the weaker and to protect the environment, because again, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, how many of those would you agree with? Hopefully some. Well, which ones are more important? Aye, that's the rub. You see, I think we could sit down with people on the other side and talk about basic concerns. Like, what are the things that you're really concerned about? Not the actual law, not the actual rule, not the actual politician, because those are all symbolic. And symbols mean different things to different people. Rather, what is it that you most want to see? What is it that you most want? Don't you believe that 90% of your fellow Americans want liberty and justice for all? Don't you believe that 90% or more of your fellow Americans really want everyone in America, everyone, to have freedom and opportunity and fairness? So my analogy breaks down because this assumes all the sides are equal. And I'm not suggesting that all lists of priorities are equal. I think if you wrongly prioritize some of these things, you could end up with disaster. But you see, there's such a difference between thinking, oh, we actually do agree about a lot of things we want to see. We have very different sets of priorities. You think this thing is the number one thing. I think that is the number one thing. If we could begin to look at it like, I'm not standing on the other side of you. I'm seeing the cube from a different side. Doesn't that help? It really helps me. But the hard part about this is that it means that I need to be willing to walk over to your side and learn from you, to understand about those sides that maybe at this point I can't even see. And it's not even two sides, right? Think about all the other parties. Think about the minority parties, like the Libertarians and the Greens and the Solidarity Party, right? Like all of us are kind of looking at this thing from all these different angles. What if we thought about it this way? What if we had the humility to say, look, let's talk about first concerns. Forget policies, forget politicians. What is it that you're most concerned about? We're not going to come to agreement probably on what the priorities should be. And we're not going to come to agreement about what the solutions are to get to where we need to be. But if you knew that the vast majority of your American neighbors actually pretty much want the same things that you do at core, they just disagree about how to get there, Wouldn't that be encouraging? So I don't know who's winning, but I'm completely at peace. It's not that I don't have a preference, but the world is neither going to fall apart nor turn into utopia, depending on who wins this election. That is not the big issue. The big issue is us, because we and our attitudes are what's being reflected in our politics. Not a side, cube. I can live with that. I hope you can too. Let's love each other and love each other well.